Welcome, everybody, to Midday Magazine for this Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. Have your host, James J. Malouf, here, and welcoming into the studio for the entire hour, Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker in with us today. Shawn, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Oh, and there we go. There we go. I got you on the wrong one there. Sorry about that.
Right.
Thanks for being here, Shawn.
I used to be muted sometimes.
We also want to send a big shout out to our friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Love our friends over there. Appreciate the work that they do. Do yourself a favor. If you haven't already done so, go to YouTube, type in your search bar, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, subscribe to their page, and keep up to date with the amazing work that they are doing over there. Appreciate so much everything that you guys do over there, man. So, Shawn, we got a number of different things that we can start with. Where do you want to start?
How cold it was at the polar plunge.
So darn cold. I wanted to get to that eventually.
Let's get it out of the way.
How did that go?
Oh, it went great. We talk about it every year. Before the event and then after. It's just that great partnership that we have. Law enforcement has with Special Olympics. So last week it was out at Anchor Bay. The folks there just doing an awesome job hosting. It's been out there for a few years, and the water was cold, as it always is. And Mike Weiberg, one of my best friends, he oversees rescue, and he was in the water with a couple other people from rescue volunteering their time just to make sure everybody gets out of the water safely. He said that the last couple of years, every time I see you jump in, you just look miserable. And I'm like, well, what do you think? And he's like, I want to wrestle with you in the water like we did a few years ago, but I just don't think that would be a good thing for you to do. And I'm like, well, don't challenge me, but I think you're probably right. But the Sheriff's Department, again, in a team. We've been doing it over 10 years. I don't know exactly how much money that we raised for Special Olympics, but it's in the thousands, and we always appreciate the people that are supporting not only the event, but our team to get out there. And this year, we had 5 people jump, and Macy, one of our night shift corrections officers, she raised the most money, over $1,000 for Special Olympics. So a big shout out to Macy, and then everybody else that jumped too. Somebody just joined us that day. When our transport officer Carrie said, "Hey, I'm coming to watch, but I think I'll just jump." And I brought a shirt. I'm like, "Okay," and she's never done it before. I'm like,
"Right on."
All right, but everybody that came out and supported the cause, I'm very proud of them, our team, and the community to be out there. Southbound came and they donated their time to have one of our premier bands from the area out there. And like I said, the hosts at Anchor Bay just do a phenomenal job to put on an event. This coming weekend, we've got the Raider Run, the Keller Knights snowmobile club that I'm part of. They're putting on, again, the hosts at Anchor Bay make sure that happens. And so if you're not doing anything this coming weekend, I think the racing starts, or the time trials, however you want to call them, around 10 a.m. or registration is, and that'll go throughout the day. But a great fundraiser for the Keller Knights Snowmobile Club, and an opportunity to locally get to use your machines, because it doesn't happen very often. But it might after this weekend. I'm hearing that we're going to be getting some snow.
Yeah.
But highlighting all the snowmobile clubs. I mean, that's what people sometimes forget, what it takes to run the trail system, and it's all by private clubs, with the state helping out with supporting the grooming. But there's so much more to having a snowmobile trail. People just seem to forget that all the trail system primarily is privately owned, and you have to really give a shout out to the landowners that allow people to be on their property. And unfortunately, that's where we come into part of this as law enforcement officers. When people decide to abuse that, that's where we're going to take enforcement action, because what that does when people especially go off trail, that really puts that route, that trail, in jeopardy, because the property owner is going to get sick of it, and they're going to say, all right, no more. And we have no recourse. And that's unfortunate. But big shout out to all of the clubs that oversee their trail systems. Hopefully, with the dumping that we get here in central Wisconsin this weekend, will put us in an opportunity to open up our trail system. So it's great sport.
Yeah.
But
to that point, and I had in my notes, I wanted to talk about this because I think a lot of people might have seen in the news over the week that there's going to be a number of trails opening up in the state. To your point, we're going to be having a little more snow, so we are going to have some trails that are going to be opening up, and I thought it was a great opportunity, not only with that, but with the recent conversation. One of the more popular things in this town the last couple of weeks, if not months, has been the ATV, UTV ordinance that's gone around. So all of these things happening in unison right now, I thought was a good opportunity to touch on the things you're talking about right now, and a reminder to all snowmobilers out there and ATV users out there that those that have not voted for this ordinance to pass are watching with a keen eye. Be on your best behavior, man. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be otherwise, and I'm not even saying that necessarily that people should be right to be nitpicking or anything like that. I'm not on a side on this one. Right. I'm Switzerland on this one. I'm going with the community on it. And it's very rare that I am that. I usually have an opinion, but with this one, I really don't. I don't act like I know better. I know that I don't know. I know that I don't. This isn't my thing. So I'm literally taking back seat and just taking in the information from people like you and other citizens. I do know that much, though. I do know that I've heard from community members that are very on tune with this and paying attention, and it's something to keep in mind. To your point about just treating these trails good and treating the property owners well.
Right. No, and that's especially with the snowmobile aspect of it. The UTV stuff, ATV stuff that has been going on throughout the state, not exclusively just to the city of Wisconsin Rapids. They'll figure it out, whether they want to go one way or another. They'll figure it out. I think that my always suggestion is take a look at what other communities have done, and how has it worked for them, how hasn't it worked for them. And then you have an ordinance that you can, create that, makes it safer for everybody, but again, it'll take some time. They'll work it out either way. Like I said, even people that are supportive or not supportive of it, or they're kind of on the fence, I think take the time to look at what other communities are doing. I always say, look at what the township of Grand Rapids did. That's where I live, and I think they did it perfectly by, looking at it. They have an ordinance that I feel is very reasonable. They started out with only opening up certain routes throughout the townships, kind of tested it, and then kind of moved it forward. Seeing, hey, we're not having the issues that we kind of anticipated, and now all of the roads are open. And same with Wood County. Going through our highway commissioner, Roland Hawk, did a phenomenal job by looking at all the county highways, looking at the, ones that are traveled more. And maybe we shouldn't have, UTVs and ATVs on them, but here's a route system that, he established thinking of safety. And, and we haven't had, the major issues. We've had some crashes, but in comparison to other motor vehicle crashes, they're lower. So, like I said, the city, like I suggest, just take a look at, what other communities are doing. City of Marshfield's open. Hey, what's happening? What kind of issues are going on? What complaints are you getting? What are the positives?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that we don't like? I really think that's the best way for everybody, on no matter how you feel about it, to become informed. Look at what other communities have done, and I think that's probably the best way to sway how you are going to move forward with it, especially with the city council at Wisconsin Rapids, because I know that they're going to take it up again, I think, sometime this month, from what I understand. And I think now that you got an opportunity as somebody that lives in this city to do some research. If it's a hard no, then let your city council person know. If you're on the fence, do some research.
And I think that's a great note for anything going forward when it comes to voting, when it comes to any of these things. Do your homework. Look into multiple sources and ask people, talk to people. And I think you come up with your answers. And I agree with you that this is going to get figured out one way or the other. It's just a matter of time, I think. I know that for the audience that doesn't maybe see the videos or know behind the curtain here a little bit, Sheriff Becker always comes in here and brings his A game and brings a ton of material for us to talk about. And I want to get to every bit of it. And I appreciate that you do that so much, man. But I did want to ask you, especially because it is happening right now, and we have a chance to talk about this in real time, that there is an Amber Alert out, and remind people about that Amber Alert, and that there is a pregnant 16-year-old girl out there that we're trying to find, and that. Now, hopefully most people have heard that by now. Certainly the resources of the Amber Alert and the way that we get these updates and everything seems like most people, whether through their phone or their TV, have heard about it. But I don't think we take a lot of time to think about what it is like like for law enforcement in this
Right.
situation, how you guys react to this, and what we can do to help you do your job in this scenario.
Call us. Bottom line, once the information goes out on an Amber Alert or a Silver Alert, that kind of information, those programs have been, out for a while. And what's been happening for us that helps us is two things. One, the continued community support. You see something, you call us right away. And then technology. We can talk a little bit about the flock camera system that's been out throughout the country. And once you get a situation like an Amber Alert, it works on two levels. One, the public notification, what's happening right now, where the news media sources are covering it. It's getting out to your cell phones. So everybody, there's an awareness thing out there. And then what we encourage people to do, if you see it, call us. Give us a call right away, because there's some certain guidelines that we have to file for either an Amber Alert or a Silver Alert in order to make sure it qualifies to go through this. And once it meets that threshold, all right, that information is something that we need the public's help. And so if we're having an Amber Alert out there, it's a serious situation. So now with the technology aspect of it, with the camera systems that are out there that aid law enforcement, say whatever this vehicle, the suspect is a 40-year-old with the 16-year-old who's pregnant, is out there. The vehicle along with the license plates are alerted when they go by these cameras that, like I said, that are all throughout the state and the country. So that's going to help us, because that information goes right to law enforcement right away if they go by. Well, we did hear that the suspect has changed license plates, but as we get that information, we can update the information that goes into this camera system. So you look at the technology aspect of it, which is, you got to love it. Some people might not like it as far as criminals, but on the other aspect of it, it does make the public safer. But the thing to highlight, though, once the information is out there as an Amber or Silver Alert, you can trust it. It met that threshold of there's somebody that is at risk. We want your help. You see something, please call it in.
Appreciate that, and thank you for the rundown of it too. And as a side note, I watched one episode of CSI and straightened me out, man. I don't know why anybody does anything anymore. You cannot get away with anything. I don't even know why. You should be putting you out of business. It's a complete side note, and trying to find a light moment here to keep the conversation going. Certainly, thank you for that breakdown, though. I appreciate that.
Hopefully, we can come up with the 16-year-old sooner than later and get her in a safe place.
Where did you want to go next, sir?
Well, again, just highlighting the polar plunge. Cole Cleworth, he started off again. He's plunged over 10 years. A great friend of mine. Again, he got out in the community and raised a lot of money, so appreciate all that he does for Special Olympics and his leadership. So a big shout out to Cole and his parents. Next thing, 10 and 186. We've had quite a few accidents and fatalities there, and it's an awareness piece. If you're paying attention to our Facebook page, we've been putting a lot of posts out there in reference to that particular intersection and the awareness of Highway 10 from Marshfield all the way to the county line at Portage County. There's a lot of cross traffic there, not just exclusively at 10 and 186, but there's other intersections. And the unfortunate thing that's been happening in that stretch is the crashes and wrong way drivers. The primary thing with the crashes that you're seeing are people are either failing to stop in the median or failing to yield, and then you have a T-bone kind of crash. We had a tragedy last January where Casey Rampton was killed, and the family, to their credit, they're still grieving, but they want change. We sat down and talked with the family, and they're willing to push something forward in Casey's name, which I give them a lot of credit, especially under the circumstances where this happened recently. But they want to bring awareness to make sure that something changes at especially the intersection at 10 and 186. Where there's some modifications there, some safety modifications that will prevent any other tragedies in the future. And, obviously, probably wouldn't make it the safest, and we've discussed this as an overpass, but that's going to be a challenge because of the funding aspect of it. Now, you have to work with Department of Transportation, our highway commissioner, our highway department, can't just go and say we're putting an overpass there, or even change the signage. Do a lighted stop sign or something else for rumble strips or something. All that has to be approved by DOT, and that's a process. And I'm not, by all means, bashing Department of Transportation. It's the unfortunate thing. It just takes time to work through their guidelines and their requirements to make any type of changes. But what we're doing is reaching out to all of our local representatives. Everybody that has any connection to that stretch of the highway in Wood County, and we're talking Pat Teston, Tom Tiffany, just a list of everybody, John Spiros, and they've been very receptive to, all right, let's look at this. All right, what can we do to help move something along to make some changes, not only at that intersection, but maybe, throughout, that stretch of Highway 10. And I want to thank all the people that are in the community that have stepped up and wrote letters, especially the family. From the mother that put together, I know it was very, very hard for her to write, but she did it, and we posted that, and I think those are the types of letters from family that people can, I could say something all day long, but I'm not the person that it does affect us as law enforcement officers and first responders and EMS, but who's dealing with it at a long term for the rest of their lives? And that's the family. And I give them, a lot of credit. They're willing to share it and willing to push for some change to make, at least that particular intersection safer in Casey's name. And like I said, this is still something that is very fresh in their minds. But, again, just thank you to all of our local representatives and our county board. They passed a resolution just requesting the Department of Transportation to, consider safety changes, including, not exclusively to an overpass, but including, that discussion, because I know that there is some, opposition to an overpass as we, talk to some community members because it affects property in the area. And I understand that. I'm always going to fall on the public safety side of things, and yes, an overpass would most likely or would take care of that cross traffic, and we wouldn't have those type of collisions anymore. But I'm not ignoring the fact of the impact it has on other people around there. And I appreciate their safety suggestions and saying, hey, we don't want an overpass per se, but we still agree that there needs to be some changes in safety measures. So I appreciate the people that are willing to step up, because for me, that would be hard for me to do, because knowing that people died at that intersection and you want to somehow oppose it, but if you come to the table and say, this is why, but I totally agree that, we need to make some changes there to make it safer. And I think that that's a good compromise to at least discuss. For me, I'll, like I said, as a public safety measure, put an overpass there. But I know that that's not that easy to do, and there needs to be some continued discussion, and there has been, and I can promise that we will continue to do that, because I'm strongly in favor of changing something there to make that intersection safer, in comparison to that stretch of Highway 10. And I don't know why. I wish I had a good answer. But
that's my question. If this is this a newer issue? Is this a new problem? Is this something that has been an issue for years, for decades? It's not as if this intersection is new.
No, it's not. I believe around 2011 is when the new Highway 10 area, or that highway, US Highway 10 highway, was redone from many years ago, because it was dangerous, and it became a 4-lane highway, and it stretches all the way to Appleton as a 4-lane highway. And there, if you look in I'm not picking on anything, you look at Portage County, I don't think that there's any cross traffic, where Wood County has cross traffic, and it's like, why? And Kevin Yeski, the superintendent from the Auburndale School District, that just people should look at his letter, because of the facts that he found and the questions he brought up, really make you ask, well, why? Why in this stretch, but other stretches in other counties, there isn't the cross traffic, especially at a state highway that's intersecting a U.S. highway. And like I said, the challenge for the county is we can't just go out and change signage. That all has to be approved through DOT because they control the state highway and the U.S. highway. So, it's something that, like I said, we're not going to walk away from. We're going to work with DOT and hopefully get something, changed, not only at that intersection, but other, parts of Highway 10 to at least change, signage or something to make, that whole stretch safer for people to travel. It's just we're getting a lot of wrong way drivers. Yeah. Some are local. We had a terrible fatality where somebody went the wrong way and had a head-on collision not that long ago on 10. And what can we change to prevent these? And I was an accident reconstructionist for several years. Was assigned to the patrol division, and a lot of things that were brought up to me most of these collisions or tragedies are driver error. I'm like, well, most crashes are driver error. Okay, something the driver did caused a crash. But I think what, as public officials and leaders, what we have to do is look at environments that can cut down on a driver error. All right, I mean, you could point the finger all day at that driver that caused the crash, but what in the environment could have prevented that driver error? And I learned that rather early on in my reconstruction career that, my instructors would say, drivers cause 99% or whatever the percentage is of crashes, but you still have to look at the environment that could take that factor away from that individual driver from, making a mistake that could cost somebody's life. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing. So again, we're going to stay at this. We're going to keep moving forward. As always, I appreciate our county board to take a look at, the issues that we have going on that affect all of us. And they passed the resolution, which, really just, I don't think it really puts DOT on notice, but at least makes them aware that, our elected officials here in the county are concerned about this. So let's work together to make some changes to make, the area safer for all of us to travel.
You hit it on the head. What the answers might be, I don't know, but I know that we'll get them coming together. We'll get them working together like adults, like we did with the jail and like we did with other projects in this area. Yeah. That may have seen years ago, like, I don't know if this is ever going to happen, and then boom, this happens. It's something very similar with this, or like we were talking about with the ETV, UTV ordinance, or any of these things. The way we get answers is together and working together on it. Appreciate that the time on this one, sir. We're going to take a quick time out. We'll be back with more with Sheriff Shawn Becker and our friends Wisconsin Rapids Community Media here at Midday Magazine at WFHR. Welcome back, everybody, to Midday Magazine for this Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. I have your host, James, here. We're joined by our friends from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, and our good friend, Sheriff Shawn Becker, is with us right now. Shawn, got another half an hour here to hang out. Where do you want to start?
We had a prayer walk through our new jail. We were just talking off air, where the project is, and we're really close to moving in. And that started, the project itself, I mean, there was stressful moments as you went through. But now as you see how close we are and it's coming down to just a couple of little things, it's like, okay, it's not only happening, it's happened. And again, I always reflect on what it took to get there, and it's always something to say about teamwork and all of our elected officials, not only county board, but everybody that looked at it and saw the need and got out in the community and explained the need. And now we're here, and all the tours that we've done the last couple of years, it's just been really enlightening, and very proud of our community that, stood up and not only supported it, but then he even came in to tour everything. And like I said, it's getting down to just, making sure all the locking mechanisms for the doors are working, and you have to, one thing that I think has stressed, people out, you have to count on other vendors to get the project done. And now when it gets this close, it's like, all right, come on, hurry up, get it done. Yeah. But, we've waited, 20 or a couple decades, if not more, to get where we're at. And I've told people, and I even told myself, I'm like, all right, what's another week? I mean, it's going to be so, when we don't have to write WPACA a check anymore, which is right around the corner, I mean, that's a big deal, because every month we're spending, just with transport costs, close to $100,000. So, I mean, that's going to be offer table, but just and then for the employees, the staff, and when can we move in, and and getting this close is pretty huge. But starting what I said, our jail chaplain Lonnie Selgi wanted to put together a prayer walkthrough, with members of our community that are part of clergy's, different denominations that wanted just to come in and, walk around each floor and prayer for the facility. The people are going to be in it, that they're there for making mistakes in their life, and they're now in custody, but just to pray for them to, once they get released, they don't come back. That was a big part of, what everybody was talking about. And then, walking through the facility and then praying for the staff. I was taken back by what, some of the people were saying, and then just brings back that community support that's out there at many different levels. And I was very proud of Lonnie for putting this together. I've never done something like that before. But it just kind of gives us a time to reflect on, like for me, what it took to get somewhere that, we were told would never happen in our careers, and here we are. It's just a very proud moment for not just the sheriff's department, but I think the community.
Agreed. I second everything you're saying there, and it's very exciting. Very happy for the getting so much closer to the moving in part of this and everything. Curious about when you talk about the inmates that are in Wapaka and some of that. Will those inmates be being transferred back to here, and how does that work?
Well, that'll be a good Ted Ashbeck question. No, we've got a plan for that. I think that we'll probably either do it in shifts where we'll get as many, because we have about 75 people there. We have an average that we pay for, so that's not going to be something very easy. Whether we work it out with buses, that's in the works on, because that's a priority. That's what I would like to see. Bringing those inmates back first, because now we're not paying Wapaka, and then maybe that's how we kind of work our way into the new facility, because you have 4 floors, and maybe we won't utilize one right away, but hey, let's get the second and third floor working with that 75, and then start bringing people over from our current facility. But once we get okay, it's going to happen fast, and our staff will, they're getting ready for it. We're training them to, that's another factor that we have to, look at is, all right, is the staff ready? And I believe they are. But it's, like I said, it's a completely different facility from what they're working in right now. But it's, once we get operational, it's going to be easier. Meaning that we have, we can see everybody from the command posts that are within the facility, where now our corrections officer put on a lot of foot traffic, because every half hour they're checking on inmates. If they're on a mental health watch, it's less. It's every 15 minutes. And that means you're walking down and looking into a cell. With this new facility, with the pod design, you're seeing right in there from the command post. Observation post.
Would appreciate those kind of notes, especially for many in the community that, God willing, they don't have to necessarily go to the jail. Right. So they might not see some of these, but we are looking, I always appreciate tours and things like that, and people being able to take it in. I admit a couple of things here. First and foremost, I've talked with you in the audience many times about my past and my family's past. I have shared that I am a hyper empath. I was diagnosed with that as a kid. So I admit that I come to this topic a little differently. And first and foremost, to me, what matters is you and the officer's safety and the people that are working there. That by far and away. But I will say one other part of this that I find is a very big part of this. You mentioned these inmates from Wapaka coming back here. Most of these inmates are Wisconsin Rapids residents,
correct,
which means their family is here. And you know this better than I do. But as a kid, my father in and out. And when I was a kid in Illinois and this would happen, we'd have to go to Cook County or something like that. We didn't know if we were going to get to see him that day. It may be open to be able to, but there was no if there was going to be room for us to be able to walk in to see him and some of those things. When my father was in the Rapids jail, we were able to see him every time. And we were able to do that. And that was integral, not just for my family to survive that time, but for my father to get to where he is now, to where he finally came back around. For these inmates to be back in town. This is not the biggest part of this story or anything like that. But you and I, our very first conversation about stopping this revolving door of inmates, part of how you stop that is them having a connection, a support system, and not thinking that this is the end. What do I got to lose? That's the last thing we want. And having them being closer to their family and being able to do those things is going to, by the stats and alone, is going to lead to more of that revolving door stopping. There's so many layers to this that I don't think we've even noticed yet or been able to, because we're not experiencing it. We're not seeing it in real time. We'll be able to. This is just a positive on many, many levels. And again, don't want to take lightly and skate past the safety issue or anything. That's first and foremost in my heart and most people's. But man, I got to say that these other part of these things here, we're going to see the dividends of it. We're going to see, and I don't think you can put a price tag on some of that.
No, you're right. And, I appreciate you speaking from personal experience because a lot of people don't share that. There's, the hurt of having a loved one in custody, no matter what they did. And you do see some situations that are very unfortunate that family is not there. And we don't have that foundation at home. Then you do see that revolving door that you bring up. And it's hard for a family to, like you've expressed, when you don't get the opportunity to see a loved one incarcerated, that hurts the family too. And sometimes that's what it takes for somebody to change as well. It might take a while, but if people don't give up, on somebody within their family, whether it's a parent or a child or a niece, nephew, cousin, if you have that foundation, I think that's an opportunity for somebody to build upon while they're in custody and to return to the community to still have some support. I've seen it before where, the family is at their wit's end and they decide to walk. And I maybe there's a reason for that. I'm sure in that individual's mind that there is. And I understand that to some level, but look at the path it might take. But maybe somebody, and again, we've talked a lot about, mental health, drug abuse, how much that is combined and how much that affects people. And I've seen, parents say, I've done everything. And then you look at the path it takes, and then that individual has to look at that and say, and I hope that's a trigger mechanism for that person to say, all right, I've got to try something else because I'm hurting people, and especially my family. Now, what opportunities do I have while I'm in custody to help me change my path? And that's where I think that throughout the years, and we've talked about it, that the inmate programming that we're continuing to invest in, I think will pay the dividends out as we move forward in the future. And, when you see somebody out in the community that is being successful, for me, that's a win, and then you look at what we're talking about right now, look at the win that is for a family. If you got somebody that's taking advantage of, the inmate programming, the NA, working with Three Bridges, working on, with our counselors that are available, our jail discharge planner, you put all those things, and that's just a small part of this. And if somebody's willing to do that while they're in custody and they go out and become successful, we're all a winner there. And then you look at the impact, like you just explained a few minutes ago, how that has a positive impact on a family when you have somebody that's been incarcerated, returns to the community, works, starts providing for not just themselves but their family. That's awesome. Yeah. That means we did our job on the corrections side of things, and as far as not just the sheriff's department, but everything else that we connect to, whether it's human services or other outreach programs that want to come into the jail to help. That's a huge win for all of us.
And these individuals that commit these crimes, accountability is incredibly important, and they need to do what they need to do to make that right. But the families didn't do anything. The families, the kids especially, didn't do anything. And I didn't plan on this, but bringing this up and talking about it triggered something in me where I got teary-eyed thinking about my little sister not being able to see her father and things like that. Like she didn't do anything wrong. So the act of being able to do this has such a deeper impact than the individual that is serving time. There are other victims. There are other people. I don't like to use that word, but there are other people affected by this. So by these individuals being back in town, you're not just helping those individuals and them have a better life. You're not just helping your community and making future taxpayers or anything, but we're preventing future trauma.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so many layers to this that is important to have this jail in place.
You said it, trauma, you know, and how that affects everybody differently, and that affects a family. Like you said, you know, your sister, that's something that you or your sister are never going to forget. However, you know, seeing the success of your father now is something that to be very proud of.
Yeah.
You know, and you could put, it's not behind you, it's there. But look what it took to get here.
My father is one of the most boring people you will meet now. And I love it. I love it. I love him for it. I love it. I guarantee you right now he's playing with his baseball cards. It's exactly what he's doing right now.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
Been there, done that, nope. Still do it.
No bias at all up to that, though. Where do you want to go next, sir?
Doug Christensen. He's been on the show before. He's retiring.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, he let me know last week. And it was pretty emotional. He got hired shortly after I did at the Sheriff's Department. Started his career with the State Patrol. I'll try to get him here next month, just before, because his last date's going to be the 18th of March. I know it wasn't an easy decision for him, but, you know, families first. And, you know, unfortunately, cops don't live long after they retire. So I think he's got a really good plan of what's next. And I'm very proud of him for a lot of things, and I brought him up about on the show before on the foundation that has been laid, you know, in regards to mental health and law enforcement. You know, when I had a previous position before sheriff, he was kind of a pain, you know, but we had, you know, some things changed in the system with dealing with mental health and law enforcement and commitments, and he really struggled with it, and he didn't stop, you know, and what he did is really, you know, brought training to our department. Mm-hmm. You know, we talk about CAT and how we now do that every year, and you know, all of our, at least on the patrol side of things, we're trying to get all of our corrections officers through that training, because I believe in it. I've been through it, but that foundation of the start of it really came from Doug. I remember the first training that we sent him to, and this was a long time ago. You know, he's struggling. I talked to some people in crisis about, hey, what can we do to change something? We sent them to a training with a bunch of social workers, and he didn't identify as a law enforcement officer, and he got the opportunity to hear how social workers felt about law enforcement and, you know, on the mental health realm of things, and listen to, you know, how they complained about us. And then towards the end of the training, he said, well, I'm a law enforcement officer. And then I think people got quiet. Mm-hmm. But that was kind of the foundation of at least the training aspect of it. So in the system, how, all right, we might get, you know, frustrated with crisis and the social workers that are part of that, but then look at it on the flip side, how they're, you know, frustrated with us. And then that built, you know, into CIT. You know, he went to, you know, over to the Appleton area to CIT, and he came back with just all these awesome ideas. And then we started sending people to CIT, and then that grew into, now we have our own CIT, you know, program. And I'm very proud of that, because it brings in how we can work with the community. That helps us recognize when people are going through a mental health crisis. And there's also a big aspect of it, of the officer wellness piece as well. It's a 40-hour training that is so worth it, where we partner with NAMI and many members of the community, and that's grown. And I'm very proud of Doug, and then Katie Sizz is who we worked with, really to build, you know, our CAT program and our mental health connection into the community with law enforcement. And what did it lead to? You know, around 4 years ago, you know, we got a legacy grant that we wrote to add a position at the Sheriff's Department and have a mental health deputy, basically an investigator that's assigned to mental health and into the community, and also our wellness. And we still have that position today, and he let that foundation to it, that it's going to be tough for somebody to step into. But he really made the position work. Got involved with a lot of boards like Mary's Place, you know, and that's just one thing. I mean, he's got out in the community and has been just a heck of a resource for just the piece of law enforcement and mental health. We talked about the stigma about it and how we've been doing, I think, a great job breaking that stigma. It's okay to get help. I've done it. I'm proud to say it. And I know he has, and he's one of the resources that our department's had for several years, so we're going to miss him, but very proud of the career path he took within our organization, because I really think it brought about change, within, law enforcement and mental health and how we do things when we deal with those, welfare checks, and then, connecting people to the resources out in the community that are struggling, because everybody does.
Yeah. I don't use the word lightly, but a trailblazer. A true trailblazer in this regard, and part of the reason individuals like him where we are now with this topic, where we're talking more about mental health, we're not talking about it in a hushed voice and some of those things. You need people like that, and specifically people in powers in strong positions to be able to do that. When we see people like that doing things, we are much more inclined to listen and hear things out. That's a great legacy, a great career.
Yeah, the foundation that he's part of will be felt, even after it's time for me to retire. I don't see, even with a leadership change, that people walk away from, because you can't. Yeah. It's grown so much within, our profession that you can't ignore it, and it's a big component of it. So,
well said. Yeah. Wrapping up with Sheriff Shawn Becker, just a couple more minutes left, sir. And I wanted to bring up the news broke recently that Lincoln head football coach Tony Viola is going to be retiring. Certainly a big name in this area for a long time, and I know he meant a lot to you. Means a lot to you. I don't want to say
that like he sure does. That's a tough one. He gave me the opportunity 10 years ago to be part of his team, the coaching staff, and we go back many, many years to college. We came into UWSP the same year. Both went and tried out for football, and that's when the relationship really continued. And it was really, really awesome to see that he got hired at Lincoln High School as a Phi Ed teacher, and then here I'm in Wood County, and then my wife wasn't really happy when I made the commitment to coach, but because of the time commitment. However, she knew where the passion was, and it's something that I love to do and to be part of. And I knew that the time would come, but that's his decision to make. And he's done a huge thing for this community. And you just look at all the kids that he coached. I know he's head coach, I believe, 19 years, but it goes beyond that. I mean, especially when you're a teacher and you're involved in athletics, you're going to connect with a lot of kids, and I'm really happy for him. I know it probably wasn't an easy decision for him. I thought towards the end of the season, I couldn't put a percentage on it, but I'm sure it was a consideration maybe that it was time to move forward or come back. I don't think he just wants to hand over the program to just anybody. I think he's given somebody, by making this announcement now, somebody the opportunity to come in for the district to find to get some time to prepare for next season, because I think it means a lot to him. But I know he's still going to coach track. He's still heavily involved with powerlifting. But no, it's still fresh with me, that okay, it's here and he's moving on. For me, I don't know what is in store for me as far as coaching. I've got to put a lot of thought into it. It might be time for me to at least take a little bit of time in the fall, and the biggest reason why is my daughter Jordan. She's expecting. We're expecting our first grandchild.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. So she's set, or I don't know if you want to say set. She's delivery time is sometime in July. I think mid-July. So I mean that's on the table. So I was going to probably step aside for at least the time being.
Yeah.
But getting back to Tony, I mean, it's just I'm very proud of the career that he's had, and then ending the season how we did this year was pretty awesome. It's a back-to-badge game, and we win it with the last second touchdown. I mean, 100th win. What a way to go out.
I was going to say, if you're going to go, I mean, that might help a little bit of making that decision and everything. Because boy, what a game to go out on in a moment. That was fantastic.
I just, honestly, before he made the announcement, because I saved the clip on my Facebook page, and I watched it, and I'm like, God, that was just an awesome moment.
And awesome work, awesome legacy for him, and a great career. And he ain't going anywhere. We'll still see him around and talk to him. And appreciation to him, and appreciation to you, your team over there. Appreciate you guys so much. Safe travels out there. Thank you so much for the time again, and we'll talk again next month, sir.
Sounds like a plan.
Big thank you to our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media again as well. We appreciate the work that they do. We'll have more Midday Magazine coming up for you right here at 97.5 FM, 1320 AM, WFHR, locally grown radio.